We are on. We're officially on. So let's go ahead and get started. And I had to say that JB's making me say this, read this off there so that when we store this video up on our website, you'll be able to find it. So this is the session called Managing, Mining, Displaying Student Achievement Data for Informing Instruction. So every year when we have our retreat, we talk about topics for these sessions, and this is always a hot topic because I'm sure you're hearing about it in your district. We want data for teachers, data for administrators, data for principals, and so forth. So anyway, today's session is to focus on that. For myself, I wasn't too interested in this until about 6 months ago. We got a new superintendent, and I all of a sudden became very interested. So these guys are kind of out in front of the pack, I think, on some of the work that they're doing. So I'm really interested in seeing what they're up to, and they're going to show a little demo here. So we have Lance Hall and Jim Newton from Beaverton.
All right.
Take it away, Jim.
All right. Thank you. So our Lance here, he's our technical expert. I'm the manager of application development and system support at Beaverton, and Lance is one of our lead analyst developers on this project, along with Sheila Bell. They've been doing tremendous work. Lance has been in the district for 24 years, and 15 years before that at Tektronix, and I'm pretty new to Beaverton just this last summer. But just before I joined, we started this project implementing a new tool called BaselineEdge. Is anyone from Renton here by chance? Nobody from Renton? Oh, way in the back. Because you guys have been doing the same thing for how long? Longer than that. Yeah, I think you were just a little bit ahead of us in that. So if there's anything you see and want to chime in, feel free to do so. As we walk through what we're doing today, we're going to take a look at just sort of what we're doing right now. Getting started, we'll then cover some of our goals. And I know what everyone really wants to see is the tool, and we'll get into that shortly, but we just want to cover some background first. If there's a chance you like what you see here, and maybe you want to see, say, part 2 when we get a little further along, because we're kind of at the young stages of this. This is just our first year going. We'd be happy to do something in the future and maybe get one of our teaching and learning experts here with us. So jumping in, we purchased a product called BaselineEdge from Longleaf, who is now merged with IO Education. And we've been, just side note, Beaverton, we've been transitioning to some secure cloud products like BaselineEdge, like School Messenger, like Frontline's AppleTrack and ASOP. Ooh. That's fascinating. I'll move over here. We have a career information system and recently purchased Canvas's LMS. So those are a few cloud products we've been using recently. I don't know if that's on. Nope, it's off, so I have no idea why that's doing its thing. So BaselineEdge, a comprehensive set of tools to kind of consolidate and bring together our academic data, our behavior data into one secure cloud location. It's kind of similar to other products you've certainly seen out in the world. I know EdFi is trying to do some of this as well. I know that our vendors EdFi supported. Thanks, Joe. And then tech support. All right. And what we want to talk about here is, we're not just talking about data itself, but we want to take this data beyond that, beyond that visualization, putting plans in place to help students be successful in school. So some of the, we're uploading on a nightly schedule, student demographics, performance measures, like attendance percentage, discipline counts, credits earned, essential skills, assessments, test scores. We've loaded data back to the 2012-13 school year, our first year of implementation on Synergy. To note that all of our data first goes into Synergy, our student system, and then it goes to BaselineEdge. Nightly, we also copy the data to a dev environment so that we can compare apples to apples based on what was uploaded that day. So again, Synergy's a key source for that data for us. So intervention plans, templates, and forms, kind of the next step. So in other words, we're not just looking at data like traditional platforms. We're also tracking these student interventions and plans within the product. BaselineEdge is providing a way for schools, districts to put those intervention plans in place. Our district has decided to provide district-level templates for schools, kind of the idea being that we don't necessarily want schools all doing their own thing within this product, that they'd all be doing similar processes and procedures. So data teams use it. Again, those district-level templates. We're focusing right now on an elementary model of implementation. So at that elementary level, we have the intervention file review, the evidence, tier 2 and 3 reading interventions, the special ed, pre-referral. So we're documenting these different forms that you see here. And one of the great aspects of this is it's going to follow the student from school to school. I'm sure you have mobility within your districts with the students. We also have quite a bit of mobility. But all the plans, the evidence, the data just jumps from school to school, so the next teacher can see exactly what the other teachers have been doing with that student. Some next steps we are engaging in: elementary math, behavior plans, secondary, high school, progress marks. We're going to get in the ACT, Explore plans, Aspire data, some other assessments, ELPA. Attendance, we want to get some more attendance measures in there. We have a few now, like attendance percentage, but we want to get days missed last 10 days, days missed by semester, number of periods missed by semester, high school credits earned. Part of this process, absolutely key, is this is not an IT initiative, and can't emphasize that enough. This is what we call our teaching and learning department, so our educators that are wanting to see process improvement. They're wanting to work with data, but they're also wanting to see process improvement. And we're talking about all of these different intervention plans forms. Sometimes teachers keep them, in a file drawer. They don't necessarily make it to the student's record, so that student goes on next grade level. Next teacher starts over. We're trying to do better with that, and they're helping push us. We're assisting them in this process. So a little bit then about getting started. And so again, we're engaged with teaching and learning. Sorry, out of order here. And again, we're just assisting them, part of their team. Our overall concern was defining what problem we wanted to solve. And so working with TNL, the district intervention team, and school data leaders to identify the challenges to recording and tracking interventions as being a primary issue they want to solve. And then, of course, engaging these teams within the schools themselves and what data do they want to see and what kind of data do they want to track within the product. Our primary goal for them to store all the students' interventions plans, status, evidence. So Lance will talk about this too. Literally, if you have student work in front of you and that's part of their intervention plan and you want to document that, you can use your iPad, take a snapshot of it, upload it. It's now part of that student's record, again, to be seen by all others that are working with that student. They wanted easy to use, they wanted non-intimidating, they wanted accessible. One of the key things Lance will show you too is the ability to create searches. You can do save searches. You can then export your data out, and it's one row per student with all of the data you need to see on that student. I think that's mostly there. So a few success factors for us. Again, our district goal, we want to see all students achieve post-high school success. This is going to play a role in that with a reduced workload. We've already heard reports from principals, wow, you know, it's took me, you guys just did something in 5 minutes, it took me 5 hours to do before by pulling the data. That is a great example of use of the system. We want discussions to be not around how do I get to the data, but how do I actually talk about instruction and individual student support and the plan and how to improve that student's performance versus spending the time with all of the data. We want to make it easier for the school data teams to quickly proceed to those discussions around instruction, how to provide the best support for each individual student, capture previous intervention data, which we're doing, entered from other systems, and move that into BaselineEdge, upload local formative pre-post assessments, evidence, and again, establish those common criteria. In other words, we don't want schools, again, to be doing things individually, but we want common Tier 2, common Tier 3 reading thresholds to be able to see. Again, create those saved searches, so next time in, a principal wants to see, you know, they already built their search once, right? The previous time, we want to have them be able to save that, have them be able to go back in and just quickly bring up that group of students. And now we're going to move in, and Lance is going to show some of those Excel docs and such.
So what I did was, thank you. That was my last year Hawaii trip. So what I did was, instead of taking you through how to build the output, I figured what I'd do is I would show you an output in an Excel document and then go through the process of getting there. My test database is an elementary, and what I'm showing you here is 9th grade high school math and science marks for semester 1. So you can do a saved search with all those data elements. So a user can open up BaselineEdge, go to that saved search, and then immediately just go to the export button to export it, and then boom, all that data for that group of kids is in an Excel document. So from a school user to not have to spend all that time gathering that data, they can quickly sit down as a data team, get to this point right here within a short period of time. So what you, and since my test database is elementary, I took the students' names out of this. But what I've got is data elements in this one is the what their current year attendance percentage is, what their last year is, who their counselor is, how many earned credits do they currently have, what their SBAC math total score was for their last test, what the total result was, what their math mark was for this pre-algebra. And for 9th grade, there's several different math and then different science courses that they take. So what I did was I extracted all those different math courses and science courses that they can have, and then what grade they're in. So what I can do here is say, okay, if I've got somebody that's taking STEM chemistry and they got an F or and a D, then you're down to those kids and then there's their SBAC scores, what their earned credits are, who their counselor is, then you can go to their counselor and whatever. So basically, within a short period of time, you can get to this data point right here and then start working with data. So if I close that and then go back into, this is the start screen. There's the analytics and the plan, and going into the student plans I'll go into in a little bit. But the analytics, basically I have all, thank you, coming up. I have all schools and all grades within those schools. A teacher would only see their school and their grade. So the security has it down to what's synergy security they have. So if their synergy security changes, it changes in here also. That's part of the nightly upload that we do. So I'm going to choose grade 5, and then I'm going to choose my trained elementary school that has scrambled names in different pictures, so you don't get to see what the kids actually look like or what their real names are. So the nice thing about this is that it shows all their different pictures. You've got all these buttons going across the top. You've got this stuff going on here. You got this here, and I'll go through all this. And you got this stuff going down this side here. So I think the first one that I've got is they call it a student card. So if I click on this student, it will then bring up some of the data that I've got for this. All the students have multiple teachers because we schedule PE and music. So it'll show their music and PE teacher also, which then there's their courses that they're assigned to. Then it just shows some of the basic stuff, and this will grow as we add more stuff over here. And then the other portion that's part of this is the you can go into a profile, and this is one of the areas that we're working with Longleaf on to get more stuff into this. This has been kind of not as important as some of the other stuff that we've been working with them on. But for 2015, 2016, here's this student's school pass or school pace scores. You can look at what their easy CBM fall, then the winter also. And if you wanted to look at last year, you can click on last year, and then it will bring up last year's stuff. The course grades, I don't have that cleaned up yet, and that's I'm working with Longleaf to get that a little bit more cleaned up. It's a lot cleaner for the secondary, but I can't show you that part. So that's the student profile. This can be printed. The teacher, if they're meeting with the parent, they can bring up the student profile, hopefully, and then just kind of work through different data elements with the parent using that. Or they can print it and put it in a paper folder if they want to do that too. Hopefully they don't. That's the student card. These buttons right here, the performance measures, the assessment, the course grade, and the standard grades. These course grades are for where the secondary final marks are. The standard based report cards is the elementary report card, and we also brought in the standard based scores at the secondary. So in Synergy, the teachers and the school staff doesn't really have a good way of quickly bringing up the standard marks. I don't know very many school districts are using standards? Yes or no? Yes? Okay. Within Synergy, with this, they can click on this and choose which standards that they want to bring up, and then boom, have those standards right in the Excel document really quickly.
See what makes up those standards? Is there a way to break that down? Like, so, teacher might rate students' reading fluency on a scale of 1 to 4, but where did that come from? What's the data behind it? Saying that students proficient or not in that particular standard.
That's a good point. We haven't gone there, but maybe that would be a thing that we can work with Longleaf to get in there, because I think that would be a good next step. But the answer is no, not yet. The performance measures, we've got a whole bunch more that, and Jim kind of brought it up, that we're bringing in more in here. One of the next steps that we're bringing in is, and we've got this in Synergy now, and now it's just a matter of including them into the nightly export that goes up to their FTP site, and then once it hits their FTP site, it uploads it into BaselineEdge. But for the different course subjects, what their last final mark was in that course subject and what the course title was. So if semester 1 they were in algebra and they got a B, it would show that their last math course was algebra and they got a B. And so they would be able to filter that stuff out then also. But for student attendance, you can click on the current, the previous. We've got some discipline, so you can choose all these different disciplines. So if you want to click on certain discipline ones, add that in, and whichever group of kids you have, you can then see what which kids have those type of disciplines for the current year. Then I think all the way at the bottom on the discipline, we've got a total one, so you can then also have that part of what gets exported out to your Excel document is, you know, what kids have so many discipline records. We've got the different tags. So like if I click which kids are in the tag program, it shows this blue square that tells me that it's processing. As soon as it turns green, then it turns to green. Then if I click on the tag and then change the filter, it will show which kids are in the tag program and which ones are not. And if I want to then go down to tag and say, okay, I only want to look at the tag kids, I click on the tag kids, and then I can go to export, and it will just export just those kids that are in tag. So I could click on both of those at the same time. And before I export out, I'll show you the rest of these. If there's a case manager, there's a counselor. This is more at the high school. How many credits the kids have. One of the things that, like Jim mentioned, we're going to start adding in like the diploma categories, how many credits they have in each of the diploma categories. DL stands for dual language. Then we've got the essential skills, which then will show what the status is and how they met that essential skills. I don't know if that's important to very many people, but that's there. We've got all these ever, if they were ever ESL student, or we've got middle school SUMA program and Rachel Carson. So at the high school level, they might want to know which kids were in those programs and then do some evaluation on those kids that were in those middle school programs. Obviously the monitoring 1, monitoring 2. So I'll cancel that. Show you exporting it out. Then you can come over here and then you can just choose certain kids that had certain percentages. So, real quickly you can get to your data and start working with data instead of spending so much time working to get your data there. Let's see.
You were just showing that screen where you had columns for algebra, semester 1, geometry, and so forth. If a student had taken and retaken, would it just show the most recent?
Correct. Yeah. Yes. So then you got this sliding bar here too. So on this screen you can say, well, let's just show those kids that have that, and then change this to current, and it shows where they fall. But since I've chose current here, I might want to change it to what were they last year and see if they rearrange. They had better attendance last year, and just this one here had a low attendance. And that's one of the other things that I think in Jim's slide was saying we have some additional attendance measures that we want to bring in. This here that says he's 0 to 20, that doesn't really, I would have to do some more digging to find out why this kid is at that percentage level. It seems awful low. On the assessment, this takes a little while to come up. It will come up eventually. So with the school PACE, you've got these different scores. One of the nice things about having this product, instead of a report that says, you have a report and here's all of these scores on there, even if you don't want them all, you get them all. So in this case here, they might just want the latest target score and the latest scale score and don't really care about these others, where somebody else might want what the initial was and what the latest is. So instead of trying to pre-guess all of those different scenarios, we just empower the user to decide which ones they want to export out. And then you can go over to export. And then over here shows this is one of the things that I have to do every time. That would be nice that I'm not sure how to do that, but so here's the different scales. So not all the kids had taken the PACE, but the ones that did, there's what their score was.
And still it's using multiple factors here because Lance had selected just a group of 8 students that were your low attendance people, and now he's exported that out with their marks.
And then if I didn't want that, I could come back over here, and there's this clear all filter here, so it just clears everything that I filtered on here, and or I can come down to this one, and I can hit the clear here, and then that would clear this, what I did here, which then would take me back to all my students. Change this back to this. So that was the different assessments. This assessment growth we're not using.
Question, how do you, like, so you have ACPEnw there, or what do you want to put, like, NWA map scores in, or DRA scores?
We do have DRA. It's
What's that process look like? Like, how does scores getting in?
good question. What we do, working with teaching and learning, the school administrators have to work with the teaching and learning people to determine what's worthy of going in, and because what we don't want is just one school using, for a small group of kids, using this one test score. We might eventually start including more and more different types of test scores, but to include it is just a matter of one of my coworkers does the test score reviews. He just creates another view, and then we include it into the script that runs at night to say, okay, this one gets uploaded, and we talk with Longleaf saying, this test score is coming. They go, okay, we'll program it in, and then it's there.
They do that, they know how to
Yep, yep. We organize all the test scores in a certain order, and basically tell them, here's the mapping, and then they run with it from that side.
Again, decisions made whether or not we take it to our SIS first, because that's where the views are stored to send the data along with it. So first we decide if we want those tests to be reflected in our student system, and then if so, if they also want it here, then we go through the second step, add it to a view that gets sent along with it. And they're a pretty quick turnaround on making that available.
There's no way to add data without going through the SIS. You have to go through the send with all information to one place, correct?
You're talking about like a school has some test scores that they're doing at their school, and they want to add that to their analysis.
Sure. The idea here is just, is it something where you have to go through the SIS? Because like you said, we need to make sure it's a test score that we want to put in our SIS before it can come here. So my question is, do you always have to go through Synergy for anything that you want to put through this as you do the nightly upload from Synergy to this?
That's our plan right now.
It's not that we don't have, I mean, we could do it,
Okay.
We're just choosing to do it that way.
Correct. Yeah, it's more a product question. I guess in that case, is it possible to not
Yes.
go through the SIS or
Yeah.
do an amalgamation of multiple, have your SIS plus other uploads that you want to do?
Yeah. It's a matter of getting it up to the FTP site,
Okay.
and how it gets up to the FTP site.
Doesn't
Makes sense.
matter.
Yeah.
We have 10 source systems if you want to.
You know, one approach is, this is kind of an extreme, but a school has a test that we're saying this can go up, but it's not in our SIS. If you send it to us in a common delimited format, and then all we do is in this order, we upload that common delimited file up to their site with this name. They know this name goes in as that test.
Gotcha. So you can just take a CSV and just throw that one thing in there, and if that's not from your SIS, that
Yep.
for ease of use, you guys are sticking with the SIS as far as being able to export directly from that and just grab that data and put it in there.
Yeah, we're basically trying to control the madness
Sure.
at
Yeah,
first.
makes sense.
You showed an example of where you were bringing up kids who had so much attendance and then showing a different attribute from like the previous years of attendance. Can you do the same thing from assessments, like showing at a kid level what their certain measures are for the current, the most recent test, but then the
Yes.
teacher being able to select, I'd like to see what the previous year's
Right.
scores were.
Let me show, let's say, let's bring in the SBAC reading Common Core for 2015. Wait for that to come in. That's in. I'll bring up 2014. Did I do winter? Fall. Short-term memory. I did Common Core. So both of those are down here now. Oh, doesn't look like any of these have oh, let me do it once again. 2014. It's not coming in. This group of kids may not have had any. That's the reason why it wouldn't come in. And I can't do that with PACE because I think this is our first year with PACE. Let me.
But there is a possibility because, like, this year and last year's assessment don't really line up on the same row. But there's a way of selectively saying, I'm looking at this particular column from one year, and I'm going to look at these other attributes from other years. That's possible.
Yes. Yes. What this what I did with this one here was this is the elementary school grade 5 test scores for the current year and what their let's see what I have here. Their reading report cards for trimester 1. But this is all current year. This is nothing from the prior year. So that's doesn't go down your line. This right here is where the report card comes in. And I'm not sure how much importance teachers put on, especially at the elementary level, on report cards. It might fall into a teacher next year where they can go back and look at last year's report cards and do some analysis on how that group of kids that they currently have. It would bring up I would bring in like their reading marks for all 3 trimesters, and then maybe do some analysis to figure out how I want to put together reading groups and that type of stuff. or the data team at that school for that grade level of kids. They might be trying to figure out how they want to group them. But like I could come down to the reading academics, and then I can choose. These are the different elements that we have on our elementary report card. You can click each one of these, click OK, and then it's now part of your data elements that's in your mix. How much time do I have? Okay, I'm okay then. So what I can do is I can save a search. So what I've done is I could add a new one and just say new saved group. And all that work that I've done on building the different elements, now I could open that back at a different time. I could, if I'm coming back in, new, oh, I went too far. Click on this Save Search here. There's that, oh, there's my plug-in. %. So what I'll do is I've got this grade 5 reading. I can click that and then I'll load that. Usually when I get this and it doesn't have all the buttons, that means that I need to try again. It was better. What it's doing is it's going out there and grabbing all those data elements. If you know, when I would pull like assessments down and I would get that red, then I'd have to wait for the green. It's going out there and doing all that loading of all those different data elements. So there is a little bit of a delay that you have to be patient with. So at this point, this one has all of these ones that I had part of that search. So I can save it. I can start a new search. So from a teacher or a principal, let's say I'm a principal and there's a certain group of kids that I want to keep tabs on a regular basis. As a login user, I can create a group and I can say, okay, just show me those kids. So I brought up a saved search that has all the data elements that I want for all of these different kids, and then I want to filter it down to just these kids that I want to keep track of on a regular basis. So then then I can go to the export pivot and it'll just show these 3 kids with all those data elements. Granted, at the elementary level, a lot of those data elements don't change on a regular basis. The attendance percentage would, but right after a report card, if you want to quickly go in and look at how those kids did on their last report card, this would be a way of being able to just go to certain kids that you want to. So that's basically what the grouping is, and how a teacher or a principal or a counselor wants to use groupings. You know, I don't know all those ways, but
So those scored by the user and the principal set up, I don't know if you guys look in every 80% below, then set that search up.
there's my groups and groups, and I believe that I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure. I'm thinking that I'll have to get back to you on that. I know that in my groups it would be just me, but I'm thinking that if it's in groups, everybody that has access to the school would see that group of kids that has those that has that level. So what I could do from a counselor at a school or a principal, like I could have a counselor name here that these are the kids that I'm wanting in a reading group or something. That whoever has that kid could click this and it would just show their kids, and then they could quickly look at all the different data elements that's associated with that. No, that's not true. They would have to have the same safe search to have the, as far as safe search goes, that doesn't go from user to, it's an individual user.
Is that truly the same search, like you said, I want kids who are 80% of something, and you get these 3 kids, but if another kid crept into that 80%, they would show up as well, or is this a snapshot of what you searched at that time?
It'll be those students at, so if you did you said 80%, and then 1 month later you go in and approve could change if that was part of the save. As long as that's the way Save Search works. Groups, if you added individual students to it, they would not be added.
If like in certain marks, I only wanted the D's and F's. The next time I come in, if another kid had a D or an F, he would appear in that group.
When I say search or a group?
Within that search.
Save search is a dynamic, but your groups are static.
Correct. I believe so. I don't want to run out of time on the plan. So, like this student here, I have in the Lance's reading group, and if I go into the profile, not sure. Well, let's go out and look at the plans real quick. Let me log out and log back in. On the login, if I'm within our school district on the intranet, it's hooked up to using SAML or single sign-on. So it would bypass this. The only reason why I'm having to do this is because obviously I'm outside of our district. So going back down to my train school, we've got these different students that are on plans. This was that first student that I was showing you. These are the different templates that were brought in for that student. And then what they would be doing is they would just keep adding notes in here. There's a evidence that can be brought in that we just started playing with. And it's actually kind of cool, and I can't demo it for you here because of I don't have any of the trained teachers hooked up to be able to log into yet. But if you are a teacher and you log in, you have your kids, you open up the BaselineEdge app, you go to your camera, or you say you want to upload some evidence for this student, you slide over to this student, it opens up the camera, you take a picture of that work that the student did, and then it automatically uploads it and attaches it to this plan. And then the teacher then just changes over to the next one, does the dial to the next student, say upload, opens up the camera, clicks, takes a picture of it, and then uploads it. So as you're looking at this, you've got the student work that can go right to this student plan. I put together a couple student plans. I made this stuff up here, by the way. But these templates are what our teaching and learning had come up with. The Tier 2 and the Tier 3 are identical as far as templates go for both of the plans. And that's intentional because they wanted to keep track of if a student's on a Tier 2 plan and they don't get off of the plan and they have to keep them on, they can move them on to a Tier 3 plan, which is on the road towards special ed referral.
So again, Longleaf works with our teaching and learning department to help develop these templates so they're just as much a part of the product.
So if I go back into the analytics and this button right here is where you create a plan. So if I chose this student here, I'd say create plan. I want to put this student on a Tier 2 reading plan. I leave that as is. I hit OK. And then I can choose which templates I want to include for this student. This pre-BaselineEdge intervention history is a template where they can add in any type of notes that was in a file or whatever that they had with from before they started working with Baseline. They just gave them an option for a place to do that. Then you just click OK, turn screen, and then if I go back over to the analytics or over to the plan, that this student here now appears over on the other side where the plans are. So I think I covered.
Is that kind of like it's just a staff update of the plan for that student, and that's the process? Is there a way to look at kind of progress monitoring data to make sure that the plans and the interventions that they're doing with that student are making a difference? Or they may have to go back and choose different interventions, or maybe they chose an intervention maybe as a copy.
Good question, and I did skip over that part, so thank you for bringing that up. As they move along with, if you notice there's the complete, updating, and overdue. There's a due date of that can be set here on this plan. You can also add as that gets completed, there's the signature that it's complete. And I think then that changes that to this being done. But as far as being able to pull this data out and being able to see which ones are not progressing, or which kids were on a certain reading program, or we're trying this method with this group, this student, and this student, to be able to pull that out. I don't think so. I think at this point you have to go in and look at the plan.
And go and look at the data, analyze it, and then kind of keep a running record of journal notes here, and just make sure they
And-
document what they've changed based on their own data analysis.
Yeah.
They
We-
kind of overlay it.
Yeah. To be honest with you, Sheila and I have just like 2 weeks ago just started working with the pilot school, and we just had gotten these templates finalized with teaching and learning to say, to tell Longleaf to make these are the templates, get them out there where we can then deploy them to each of the different schools. And so we really haven't stepped that far into it yet. One other, with the templates, or with each of these plans and different, you can assign the owner. I'm not the owner of this, Sheila is. I might have to find it somebody else. But she's each school has one owner, and then that owner can assign different staff members to the different plans. And so if you've got a group of 5th grade teachers and you want all 3 of them looking at that plan, then the owner that's assigned at that school then can assign all 3 5th graders, and then all 3 5th graders can contribute to that plan. And then nobody else that, and then nobody else in the school would, unless they assign them, would be able to. If that student is in your classroom, you automatically can see that plan. So at the middle school and high school, if a student has all these different subjects, all those different teachers are going to be able to see that plan. Do you have anything? You want to go to the question?
Yeah, any other questions folks have? We did, Lance took a bunch of screenshots, and this presentation is on the website for ACPE. Just go to this session, you can download it.
So when you guys went up to look for, you mentioned a couple other systems were doing similar things out there. How did you guys end up on BaselineEdge?
Do you know, Lance?
It was a real quick process last summer, and it wasn't an RFP, it was an RFI, and we had several different companies come in and demo. Two of them made it to round two, and this one had a real friendly user interface. And I hate to put it this way, but you've got a lot of school users that if it looks intimidating or not inviting, they immediately don't go any further, and they won't use it. And one of the things that we got a reaction from a lot of people that were that we brought in to be part of that process is that they believe that they would be able to convince a lot more of their teachers and school staff to use a product like this, just because one, it shows the student pictures there, and they like to look at the student pictures, and it brings them in. And then the student plan was a real nice thing. There was another tool that didn't have a real nice user interface, but the analytics was real strong. Steve might be able to answer this better than I can. But I think it outweighed it to go more with the nicer interface. Do you have anything? Is that good?
No, I think that's right. User interface is so important to teachers, ease of use, and so that was a high value.
Any other questions? And we're 10 minutes early.
Thank you.
Thanks.